26-minute FT vid, thank you.
I assumed that everyone was working with similar levels of understanding about the various reasons why Sanders struggled specifically with black voters, why certain types of supporters of Bernie made that job even harder, and that a South Asian man born in Uganda is very different from what any college admissions board should think of as black or African American. First, let me clarify my stance on Mamdani and engage with why I think this has been misinterpreted in good faith by a lot of people. I am a Mamdani fan. I have been casually paying attention to him since his emergence in the last few months. I've watched a lot of his stuff in the last few weeks, and while there's critiques around electoralism and establishment-based politics that we do have to contend with, I do not care right now. At the end of the day, if
Okay, in his introduction here, it reminded me of something I wanted to talk about. One thing that has always been a big motivator for me, right, in what I do is because of the background that I come from, Southern upbringing, raised in like a conservative, Catholic / Christians, and also like family, like extended family in the clan, and like I grew up very fucking racist. I have tried this last 4 years in doing this to trying to get people to give them the tools to like go down that journey that I did as well, right? And part of that has been a recognition that like I'm not gonna like be good at this all the time, right? That I'm not gonna be good at like advocating against white supremacy all the time, because like it's in my brain. Because I will not get it out of my brain 100%, of course I'm gonna fail. And I think the thing that has kind of like been eating away at my brain over the last week has been that I didn't see like those grievances, at least very prominently, or at least they didn't like stick with me, right? I didn't like digest them enough. And I think that like that is like the problem here, right? I don't know what the proper way to do like my goal, like the genesis of starting this, and that motivation to try and like pull people out. I don't know what like the best method is in this format, right? That's kind of what I'm realizing. Like maybe like the attempts in this format haven't been like the best. Sometimes you just got to sit and listen. Yeah, well, of course, right? I'm just one person, but I have a responsibility of platform. I want to like always respect that responsibility, right? But I want to show, right, through my action that I recognize that responsibility, right?
If his leadership could benefit regular people as well as benefit other similar movements nationwide, that's all that really matters to me right now. And I think what a lot of young black folks, especially New Yorkers, made clear is that my jaded fears about Mamdani, which I kind of led with, aren't really useful right now. And you know what? Y'all are right. I am struggling to see past my own cynicism in electoral politics, so much so that to me it seems completely obvious that the only way to engage with this is cynicism. And that's wrong of me as a person with a large platform who purports to want to be a good elder. I shouldn't be pushing off my political trauma on y'all. I should be doing what I can to support. I'm sorry about that. They brought it back. People are talking about primarying Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer. And
here's what I do. Kicking, biting, fighting, property.
A lot of people are hoping that AOC runs for president. And again, you can take issue with the DSA and certain further left parties for valid reason, but to me, it's not enough to not want to support their growth and want to grow it at scale as they go against two overtly fascist and genocidal parties. And this is something that got its gestation with Bernie Sanders in 2016. For all of his flaws, Bernie Sanders is overtly responsible for the sudden rise of a populist, visible, and active leftist wave of thought in America. Again, imperfect, as I'll get to later, but for the first time in like 50 years, it's alive, and that is a start. But to start, I figure it might be better to create understanding with certain leftists in the crowd if I start with using Mamdani as an example of how to engage with and appeal with black voters, as opposed to how Bernie had.
My frustration with the constant, he's not appealing, right? He's not appealing to this group or that group, was that it was missing the forest for the trees. But ironically, I was missing it too. And out of that frustration, I just, moments of failure of mine was to say, I think a lot of the votes that were against Zohran were born out of like Islamophobia and like that propaganda working. That is incorrect, right? That is just incorrect. That's why I hate looking at polling and electoralism in general. I mean, it's a snapshot, right? It's valuable information in many ways. That is a failure, and like, you know, again, responsibility of platform. That's a dumb take, right? This is straight up dumb, and understandably, that would make a lot of like you know, black chatters feel like, oh well, shit, like you're just writing us off as like Islamophobic, right? Whether or not like the chat understands like where my heart's at and like understands like I'm not saying this from a bigoted place, that doesn't really matter, right? Because it is part of a broader like issue of, you know, people who are in my position.
This is not something that Bernie did in Vermont. When Bernie popped out in 2016, it was immediately obvious that he hadn't actually been in community with black folks since MLK in the 60s. The phrase, "whose mans is this?" was very appropriate, and his response to that phrase wasn't the appropriate response. Eventually, Bernie did start making more efforts to get into black spaces. He got interviewed by the Breakfast Club for like 15 minutes, but the whole time it was still obvious to black people that this was not someone invested in black people up to this point. And this is all without going into the not so great moments with Black Lives Matter on stage, or saying that he doesn't believe in reparations multiple times without a very good answer. Instead, Bernie just kept insisting that his political goals would help black people, and he just expected folks to be like, oh wow, you know, healthcare does cost too much, and I never considered voting for a person who wanted free healthcare.
One more thing I want to say for now. I was reduced to someone crying over a petty grievance and a troll by the community. I didn't say chatting is praxis. I didn't even make this about Hassan. It's about the community that's been fostered in online white leftist spaces where more people like me and Tofu weren't heard and were actively attacked, like yesterday, and Sean and Jason called libs for dissenting opinions. I didn't feel welcomed. I was left crying after. And I'm really sorry that this is the space that has been fostered, Doodle. Like, that shit hurts, right? It obviously hurts y'all more than it hurts me. It's a failure.
Why not support reparations then?
What do you mean by reparations? So what is your position specifically on reparations? I asked the question because Elizabeth Warren, Julian Castro, they've indicated they want to support. What does that mean? What do they mean?
Now, why does it seem like this week you've been kind of dodging the reparations question?
So is Sean? Great question.
Senator Harris and Senator Warren have both kind of spoken out and said that they agree with some form of reparations.
Well, what the question is, what do we...
Also, shout out in the chat for Sean because someone just asked, but also please, go support Doodlebirb. Please, for the love of God. Like, they're an incredible content creator. They're incredible. Please go support.
Not dodging the question. The question is, what do we mean?
We really want to talk about what are you going to do about reparations? You can get a photo. Okay. You go. Yeah, go. I'm not a selfie.
We have the highest rate of childhood poverty of any major country on earth, especially within the African American community. So what
it's so frustrating because like he has said that he supports a reparation, but he always gives a caveat to it. He always gives a caveat of like my reparations is one that he does a universality thing. Like it's one that, you know, will help everybody. You don't have to give a caveat, man. It's like you can say yes, reparations, and on top of that, direct community investments, right?
I've said black 50 times. All right, that's the 51st time.
Throughout black history, politicians, both black and white, come into black spaces with allegedly good intentions, promising the world, and then never return after you get their vote. That is something that black people are very used to. There's other elements to this process, right? But that is the reality. So no amount of presenting good politics is going to convince a lot of black voters, especially older ones who have seen this multiple times before. So if you have bad praxis and antisocial tendencies, you don't deserve community or support just for having good ideas, and you cannot build a political movement just by winning debates in the marketplace of ideas. Research on debates show that very few people have their opinions changed by watching an argument. Conversely, exposure to certain ideas and engagement with communities has always been a predictor of ideological change. That's what Mamdani is doing. And to give him credit, that's what Bernie had going for him as well. It's good that he activated a generation of millennials and now Zs to bring leftist ideology back to the mainstream, but now it's important to not just relax in that position and coalition just not enough. Everyone should be doing what Mamdani is doing to build a bigger coalition, not creating a stand culture around him. Everyone should be, say it with me, following Mamdani's lead. And I need y'all to see how critical of a thing that is, because this man has the juice. I'm so sorry for absolutely nothing! And all I want to do, all shade aside, is contribute to the mass production of Mamdani juice. I want to squeeze all the juice out of Zohran Mamdani and spread it everywhere around the country.
Relatable.
And I know you guys do too. So please be less invested in winning arguments, less invested. I wanted to keep a straight face while saying that. So please be less invested.
Wait, what did the pause say?
I wanted to keep a straight face while saying that.
We want Mamdani juice. It's true.
So please be less invested in winning arguments, less invested in ideological dominance, and more invested in coalition building, more invested in winning hearts and minds, and building community. And all of that is going to be hard if people, myself included, don't know when to shut up. So with that said, this is all I have left for this topic, I hope. I'm FD Signifier, and this has been Light Work.
I'm going to post this on Twitter. With the current conversation happening on Twitch within the Leftist community, FD Signifier is a great video for breaking down many of the issues we should be working to resolve.